Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, the voice behind that Kaito Dan, and welcome to my review for RWBY Volume 8 Episode 3, Strings. As always, please make sure you are watching this episode first through roosterteeth.com to support the show and avoid spoilers. And if you've missed out my reaction to Episode 2, links in the description and the card above. We swing right into the fandom spotlight first with your arts and comments, and understandably, The Hound was a big talking point for you guys from last week, with Chelsea Vigo best summing up many people's thoughts about Remnant's newest beast and its debut. Of course, we also had the gutbuster that was Weiss's little trip through the tubes, something that Chris Riley reckons could have only been improved with a familiar scream. And finally, AC Gears and Arms brings up an interesting yet concerning dilemma after Crow's declaration to kill Ironwood that, I won't lie, has me worried. Don't forget to leave your thoughts on this episode in the comments down below, and hit me up on Twitter with any killer art that you would like to see showcased, and tune in next week to see if anything gets featured. So, last time out, we had another entry in the long line of Rollercoaster RWBY episodes that sent us fans on a ride. Amongst some great interactions and comedy gold were equally strong reasons to panic, culminating in a grand unveiling of a grim that more than deserves its own Beware the Dog warning. This time though, we are set for our first episode of the volume dedicated to just one point of focus. So, did I feel this episode was able to stand proud, or did it flop like a puppet without its strings? Let's find out! As I said, we're only focusing on one chain of events for this episode, and much to the Oscar Protection Squad's dismay, it's not his rescue. Instead, we're back with Team RWBY, well, more RWBY's side of things, as they attempt to sneak through the Atlas military base and find the Amity Tower terminal. But not before Blake comes out of the tubes looking like she found some strong as hell catnip, and Weiss gets some due payback on Nora after last week. There's already a few early laughs already as we see the gang get thrown off by Penny spouting off directions with her usual eccentric charm, and you know someone's being kooky when even Nora gets thrown off. RWBY though, you can tell she's used to it, and is proud of her robo buddy when she reminds May she does have a name. I actually like that May was not so much hostile to Penny, but sort of prickly, as even with the two being on the same side, their backgrounds may be making things a little bit awkward for May to get used to working alongside someone who, in the past, she used to distrust as a creation and notable figure of those that have made life difficult for the people May works hard to help out. Just a nice little realistic detail taking note of past exchanges and allegiances, and how it's not a smooth process when trying to build new bonds, that I did appreciate seeing. With the route scoped out and after an early scare in the elevators, the Invisible Gang come across their biggest hurdle, trying to get past Central Command. And now it's time for Semblance Science with Penny Polendina. The Robo-Girl once again rapid-fires out a plan with her trademark spirited charm, as she literally breaks down how RWBY breaks down to her molecules when using her semblance, suggesting that if she does the same with all of them, they'll be able to pass by pretty easily. Now, all I remember of science lessons was Bunsen burners, acidic level testing, and getting thrown out of class cause I sneezed once. No joke. So I can't say if all this molecular talk is on point or not, but what I can say is I did welcome the cute chibi visuals, helping the explanation be a little more clear. And it does lead to another bit of funny, sassy Blake, with her calling out RWBY for not understanding her semblance before Penny did. Plus the snap callback about Penny also catching on that she was a Faunus before RWBY as well. One thing though about this detailing that I do want to discuss deeper is people pointing out that RWBY should already know about being able to transport other people with a semblance, as she's done so 3 times. Once with Penny in Volume 2, the next with Nora in Volume 4, and then with Weiss in Volume 6, with some folk thinking that it's a gaffe on the writer's part, or a retcon of her power. Stuff to keep in mind though is RWBY herself has said last volume she doesn't normally think her semblance usage through, going for more instinctive thinking, which does fit her overall in-the-moment mindset when it comes to combat, where she does often use her semblance the most. As for those past uses, we see RWBY actually carrying Penny as she's dashing away, so there's not really some of that full rose petal molecule breakdown stuff going on there. And each of these instances also has RWBY using her semblance's speed and momentum with only one person in tow. Even if she knew about the science side of her power, she may not have been aware or confident in doing the same with more than one person. So this and the previous instinct quote can give some room to excuse these past instances and why RWBY is in the dark on the deeper scope of her power until this analysis. Moving on, we briefly cut away to Ironwood, who is apologizing for being late, no doubt making sure that the mess he made in episode 1 was cleaned up, so to speak. And we see that, as many of us have pondered, yes, the General has indeed brought Watts out of jail to try and hack Penny and force her to return to Atlas. And I won't lie, I am kinda sad that we didn't get the initial discussion between these two. I first wondered if Ironwood did offer Watts a deal to try and get him to comply, but I think the firing squad armed and ready makes it clear that no deal was given, let alone agreed. The Mad Doctor just being straight up forced to comply, but still, I did wanted to see Watts smugly mock James for doing exactly as he hoped, sacrificing whatever it takes to protect Atlas, even his humanity. These two have some really strong chemistry together, and I think it's a shame that we don't get to see Watts gloat a little, or Ironwood showing more signs of his locked off morals by discussing how, even though he hates having to use Watts, he will do so if it feels it's right for his goals. And yeah, it's a tad ironic and very hypocritical that despite being a thorn in his side even before he worked for Salem, James is fine working alongside Watts to aid his plans. But no, working alongside Robin, someone who, outside of some law bending, was quite vocal about fighting for the sake of those in need, was something the General would not even consider until either Robin stopped her efforts to help Mantle or went into custody first. Of course, Ironwood doesn't fully trust Watts, not even close, and he completely expects him to try and pull some kind of stunt, see the aforementioned firing squad. But once again, Ironwood is putting too much faith in brute force being enough to stop any issue, and it's further proof of the kind of risk that the General will invite just to get things done his way, where in the past, his more logical side that has been trimmed down as he cast aside his humanity would never welcome such a risk as working alongside someone like Watts, you know, someone who's worked for the enemy. The man just keeps on thinking it's his way or the highway, in spite of all the times it's blown up in his face. And now he's doing so without a calm, rational head on his shoulders. It's making things all the more troubling, now that he's drafted in Watts to do some dirty work for him. Also, gee, that concern about Penny's well-being sure went out the window fast as soon as he believed that she wasn't coming back by choice. Goddammit, James, you are so awesome as a character, but you're also goddamn frustrating as a person. Anyway, speaking of Penny, she's been using her father's credentials to get access through security, and that inevitably leads to their plans being discovered, prompting Ironwood to put out the alert for the trespassers to be dealt with, even with lethal means. Again, rest in peace to Ironwood's humanity. So now the gang need to press on, while May goes and gets a ride prepped for their escape. Cue then the arrival of Bill, the somewhat unfortunate worker who gets tripped, sending his drink into the command center's tech, providing the perfect distraction for RWBY to dash the gang through, much to poor Blake's dismay. Rewinding things a little, I have seen some people think that this guy Bill could be Best Bun Velvet's dad, Will, since we learned in Before the Dawn that her dad works at the Atlas Science Labs in the military. But even though apparently Bill can be used as a nickname for folks named Will, which is news to me, and the fact that he has that dad mug, I very much doubt it is the same guy. I think the similar name is just a coincidence, and both the mentions of top secret projects and the high security that Will had during his traveling with Velvet suggest that Will is someone with a high level role in the team, whereas Bill here is just some random guy who apparently at one point put salmon in the team's microwaves. What? And yeah, I have very little sympathy for the guy, even though he was tripped, since he still brought drinks to an area with clear warnings about not doing so in case this exact mess happens. And the reaction of everyone else seems to suggest that he's not the best worker in general anyway. Speaking as someone who has worked in retail and at a cinema and had to deal with people like Bill, I can relate to these frustrations, especially this poor chap, and shout out to whoever delivered that super believable scream of his. But hey, maybe I'm just being too harsh. Which camp are you in? Hashtag justice for Bill or hashtag damn you Bill? While you ponder that, and whether or not this poster actually confirms Shark Grim are indeed a thing, we carry on with the gang finally reaching the terminal room that has such a protected area about it, no one works there, and the door is protected by super strong electric locks, which I'm sure won't come into play anytime soon. Still, they need to be quick. So Pietro has to take manual control over Penny, allowing him to make the right inputs quick and easy. And gee, this series sure loves to show when someone's body is being taken over by having their eyes turn yellow, huh? I know we've been seeing a fair bit of parallels between Penny and Oscar as they both deal with the tug of war of their self-identity versus their duty or fate, but this is even more of a tie-in that does make me wonder if, come the volume's end, we will see these two address their issues together. I also like that when Pietro does take control, the mouth and body movements are more stiff and, well, robotic, since it's not a natural process anymore. And beyond that, because Penny is having these conflictions over who she is and what she wants to be, she shows some slight dismay at having to trade control of her body to someone else, even if it is her father. It was a brief detail, but something that makes even this good intention process matter a lot for such a personal struggle that will make a bigger deal later on, especially with it also confirming that Penny can indeed have someone take control of her body even with her soul inside. Again, I'm sure that won't play a key role anytime soon. As this is going on, we also take a moment with the other three as they use this as a small breather and a chance to share their concern about Ruby and Yang having a rare moment of being at odds with each other, though Weiss, given her own differences with her sister, says it's just a usual sisterly trend. I'd imagine Weiss is still concerned about being on the opposite side of Atlas with Winter, but I do like that with the two being more open to talking about their own path in life, Weiss uses that belief not just to help herself press forward, but also to try and comfort another sisterly concern, once again showing how far Weiss has come in learning how to be honest with her own strive to improve herself and those around her, like she did with Yang back in Volume 5. Nora then chimes in, saying that she has faith the others will be okay, praising each of their strengths. Well, save for one, Ren. A detail that, after being caught by Blake and Weiss, causes Nora to catch a slip and start addressing her concerns about him now. The current strife between them is new ground for the pair, just as things look to be improving, and Nora doesn't know what's wrong with either of them, who's to blame, and more importantly, what she should do next, because in the past, she always had Ren to count on. So now that the issue is tied to her relationship with Ren, she's caught in a whirlwind of mixed emotions that she doesn't know how to handle on her own. Thankfully, she is speaking to someone who knows all too well about dealing with conflict involving someone super close to you, Blake. Like Nora, Blake has learned that someone can be close to you so much they almost feel like a part of you the longer you're with them. But that's just it. They're only a part. You still need to consider the rest of you and know when to focus on yourself if there's an issue. It's what made her realize that she had to cut off from Adam the more his toxic influence was starting to overwhelm her own happiness and beliefs, and heck, it even influenced her leaving Yang and the others after Beacon's fall, having hated seeing them suffer because of the turmoil that she felt was hers to bear alone. So she cut them loose, allowing her time to rediscover herself until she was content to handle balancing her own happiness with the happiness shared with those dear to her. Basically, Blake's trying to help Nora realize her own self-worth, that she's not defined by her relationship with Ren, and she's allowed to have different opinions to him. Her feelings do matter, and who she is by herself matters as well. And when she's able to realize it, then she'll be able to try and mend the strain with Ren with a clearer head, knowing full well who she is without him and why she does feel more complete with him. Thing is, Nora just thinks that all she is behind her bond with Ren is the tough girl that smashes stuff. But hopefully this time apart can be the reflection point that she needs to realize she is more than that. She's the bright spark that helps lift the mood of her friends and allies. She's the chipper girl who loves sweets and new thrills. She's the lovable friend that behind all the jokes and smashes can tell when others are in pain and will lend an ear, a hug, or even a slap if it helps them overcome what's on their mind. This is the Nora that I and many others know she is. Now it's time for Nora to know it too. So, once the time comes that she can confront Ren on their matter, she's able to accept her own individuality may not always be dependent on Ren, but she is still mentally at peace with it, and can best chase solving their issues and hopefully find a balance again that gives them both the growth in the relationship they clearly want, but also fear at the moment could be the stuff that is driving them apart. This is the kind of scene to best explain why I am so glad we've got these unique team mashups, and also why there's more going on with the Ren-Nora relationship beyond just having them finally kiss and be more honest about their feelings. We got to see characters like Nora out of their comfort zone and be aided by those with perspectives that they've not benefited much from before. Blake's relationship's growth and Weiss's strength in finding her own individuality, both offering some welcome inputs that blended in perfectly with Nora's concerns, and the matter itself being a welcome moment that further fleshes out Nora as her own character. She's always been a favourite of mine because of those glimpses beyond her comedic charms and the Ren-Nora stuff, and I'm glad to see the show best utilise trying to make Nora realise her own singular qualities in an effort to build her up to a stronger hearted person best ready to handle what is dividing the pair for now. And the scene in general really shows the quality in Samantha Island's emotional acting chops. Eventually, Pietro manages to copy the launch protocol into Penny, so when they launch Amity Tower, the process will be directed to her instead, which should make things easier, emphasis on should. However, much to Penny's dismay, Pietro and the others seem to agree that Penny should stay on the tower with her father and Maria when it launches, so they can keep the Maiden Powers away from Salem, and Ironwood as well. A bitter pill to swallow, and one more addition to the list of moments where Penny's own wishes get squashed by outside factors and opinions, even with it being an understandable plan of action. But before all that happens, there's an issue right now, as the gang must overcome the Aesops blocking their way out. Looks like we got ourselves a rematch, folks, even Marrow saying that last time was a fluke. Ha! While Vine tries to mediate a peaceful surrender out of the heroes, with less than effective results, especially when he suggests that Penny's actually causing harm by not giving up. The longer she stops Atlas from being able to flee, the more danger those in Atlas, not just Mantle, are now in now that Salem is here, which, I mean, yeah, he's right, but as we saw last episode, there's still a lot of people in Mantle being unfairly abandoned when there's still a chance to save them. What's not helping as well is the stuff that Elm and Harriet are saying. Marrow and Vine seem to be the more understanding of the hero's intentions, but these two are dropping some majorly harsh and unfair comments, Elm even suggesting that Winter's injuries are Penny's fault, and Harriet accusing her of repaying her efforts and sacrifice by stealing the power that Winter was meant to have. No, Winter's injuries were cause of Cinder. If she didn't turn up, there would have not been a fight, thus no wounded Winter, and Penny only took the power cause it was either her or Cinder. But at this point, I guess these two are just unwilling to listen to anything that might even make them consider questioning Ironwood's orders, especially after what they witnessed not too long ago. Still, it doesn't excuse Harriet going for the low blow by cutting off Ruby's defenses with the threat of being arrested and thrown in jail alongside Crow. That one really cuts Ruby deep, as we see a rare pissed off expression on her face. I like it. In fact, there's a lot of great expression work in this episode, and I hope we see more of it over the rest of the volume. At this point, it's clear we're gonna have ourselves a fight, and Penny steps forward, which allows Harriet to lock the others in the terminal room, making this a 4-on-1 fight. Even though there's the small matter of that one being the current Winter Maiden, as Penny calls forth a wind tunnel that sends the elites flying. Problem is though, while Penny is already a high-class fighter in her own rights, even without the Maiden magic, she's not even a day into getting used to its power. So compared to other maidens like Cinder or even Amber, much of Penny's magic is strong but manageable, as the Aesops keep the Robo-Girl on her toes with all manner of attacks. A couple of noteworthy sequences include the lack of general extreme care for their teammates' well-being, meaning that Marrow gets a rough landing after one rescue attempt, as well as a super cool fastball special with Elm's hammer swing launching Harriet into a Killer Instinct level Ultra Combo! And the fact that we finally see Vine use his weapon. Thank God. The fight in general is super intense, with no side really maintaining control of the fight for too long, before the other side regains it in thrilling fashion, and much of the best work coming from Harriet's lightning quick combos and Penny's vast range of attacks. But eventually, the Aesops get an opening when Marrow uses his stay semblance on Penny, and her only hope is still stuck behind the door, as we see that even Weiss's Knight can't break down the electric locks. Thus, Nora decides that this is indeed her time to show what she's all about, and she uses her hammer to connect to the sparks, absorbing the voltage right into a Semblance and turning her into a super shocking Saiyan, or I guess going off that long ass scream of hers, it's Thor's immigrant song moment from Thor Ragnarok, and she blasts open the door wide open just in time to save Penny from being handcuffed. Like Nora says, that was pretty awesome. Except there's one hell of a drawback. Even for Nora's incredible durability when absorbing electricity, the amount she absorbed from the military base's mainframe was too much for even her to handle, the power breaking her aura completely and leaving her knocked out, as well as giving her some nasty scars. Those are called Lichtenberg scars, which are made from blood vessels bursting from electric discharge and heat, creating the root-like pattern dependent on the route the electricity takes in the body. And though the scars can fade, it's a clear sign of what could be fatal wounds after intense electricity damage. And considering Nora has survived some natural and man-made lightning bolts, plus the dust electricity shocks that she got from Hazel that made her skeleton visible, that must have been some next level power that she was taking. Again, this could be fatal and those scars could fade away, but there's still a chance that she might not make it out of this alive, so they need to get out of here. And it's a badass moment that's bound to leave some heavy after effects, especially when Ren hears about what went down. A side note though, When Nora first zaps into the zaps, we see the power in the room flicker on and off, and considering she was likely tapping into the entire base's power source, could that have allowed the hard light dust walls in the prison to glitch out, leaving Crow, Robin, and yes, even Jacques some time to escape? Food for thought. There's still a fight going on, mind you, and James is pissed that the best chance to subdue Penny may have just gone. But before he calls in some more troops, Watt suggests a different approach, something that gets relayed to the Aesops, with Marrow accepting on the team's behalf, much to Harriet's chagrin. Suffice to say, the dog boy just wants this all over with, especially with Ruby and the others now free. So while everyone picks the brawl back up, Harriet enacts the plan, which is snatching one of Penny's swords clean off her before they all retreat, though not before Mario... Mario? You got the sword! Let's go, Harriet! Yahoo! Not before Marrow shows once again another sign that perhaps he is having second thoughts about where he stands. Will we see him try to turn sides? I think we will, it's just more of a question of can he do so without Ironwood putting a bullet in his head. We'll have to wait and see, but for now, Nora needs help, and after reuniting with May, the group managed to flee safely, and on the flight back, Penny realizes that as much as she does wants to stay and help the people of Mantle, the others are right. She's clearly targeted by both Salem and Ironwood, and she should stay low for the moment up in the tower. So, after one more hug from Ruby and a promise to see each other again soon, Penny flies off. But there's still the matter of that pinched sword, which we see as the episode's conclusion that Watts believes it will help him finally crack Pietro's tech and give them the means to hack Penny. The idea of Penny being hacked is a worrying thought alone, but I am also worried about Penny being hacked while she's alone with Pietro and Maria. I just can't shake the feeling in my gut that if Watts succeeds with those two close by, Watts or Ironwood will make Penny try to kill Pietro so he's not able to do any more work for the heroes. And that would undoubtedly cause so much suffering for Penny that could cause some immense damage for her moving forward. And that would also mean that Penny's current soul is the last chance she has. No more Pietro means no more aura that can help Penny be rebuilt. Not only that, but now the launch protocol is within Penny as well. So if and when Watts manages to hack her, there goes the heroes' plans as well to contact the rest of the world, meaning they will truly be on their own against Salem, Ironwood, and then a manipulated Penny. Still though, this was another really strong episode that, in spite of just its singular point of focus, had more than enough drama, comedy, and tension to hold up the episode by itself. There was a lot of comedy early on that may have been somewhat unbalanced for what was set up as a risky mission best suited to a serious tone, but at the same time, a lot of these gags were relatively small and delivered early enough before things did get more intense, so it didn't counteract the required tone all that much, for me personally. Even the most tense stealth missions have the odd lighthearted joke here or there. And much like last episode's humour, it eases us into things before the pace and suspense ramps up into harsher tones later on. It's also helped by the variety of gaffes at play. Visual gags mix up well with the spoken jokes, and the reactions of the cast help these moments stick the landing all the better. There were also more small details in an episode that I really valued, such as Ruby getting to geek out a little at Penny's tech when sneaking in, the aforementioned expressions being really damn strong throughout the episode, even with the more emotional moments, Harriet's eyes reflecting Penny's reaction time to her speed, and the added touches to Blake's shaky leg and ruffled hair, making the Catgirl's distaste for such travel even more apparent. As the episode's title seemed to suggest, this was another big episode for Penny, easily her biggest so far this volume, as we got to see her at her strongest, but more prominently at her weakest, thanks to some really captivating material that further explored her battle to maintain her self-identity. It was nice to see some of Penny's trademark quirkiness again, almost like she's trying to desperately cling on to remaining who she wants to be seen as, in spite of the daunting stress on her shoulders, and the continued moment that her intentions to help out are kinda crushed by those around her, even with good intentions. And besides those elements of outside control further making her plight all the more tragic, we also get some additional guilt over Nora's injuries, and the solemn acceptance that she does need to stay away, perfectly making the character look at her most vulnerable, just as all signs point to her being hacked in the near future, which is bound to lead to some heavy and engaging content, not just for Penny, but for those dear to her. The road seems to be paved out to where hopefully, if Penny makes it out okay, she'll have rightfully earned her freedom from the strings that keep directing her life in a different path to the one she wishes to take. And this episode's focus on further testing Penny's heart went some way in making that journey all the more compelling, even as I sit here worried about what that looming sense of dread with the hacking may bring. Her fight with the Aesops also gave the volume its first big brawl, and a proper spectacle at that, the masterful tandem offense and numbers advantage of the Atlas elites working well off Penny's wide range of attacks and her fledgling maiden powers. Though on the whole, I like that this fight did help show that even without Clover and after the loss to Team RWBY, the Atlas elites can still be a tough test to overcome. Lots of fluid animation, great camera work, and an even flow to who was in control. Simply top stuff and a good pace setter for the volume's major fights to come. But for me, the episode's MVP that carried the bulk of the episode's strongest moments was Nora, who showed the biggest example of the benefit of seeing these heroes split apart even for just a short period of time. Much like Penny, she brought her own array of chuckle-worthy delights, and it's also the internal struggles with the ginger snap that made us such a treat this episode. Backed by some fitting support from Blake and Weiss, we got to see Nora finally open up about her woes, and a real effort being established to cement why she is more than just Ren's partner, or the funny girl with the big hammer. And much like her fellow redhead, seeing her try to find herself in amongst all that's weighing on her mind is quality material that fleshes out her character and sets the stage for some tasty drama to come, especially once Ren finds out about her injuries. Again, if I had any real negatives about the episode, it would be missing out on the actual setup of what's being forced to work under Ironwood's thumb, just for the banter that would no doubt would have been rich in snark and cutting jabs. That aside, it's time to hand out my episode awards, and this time it's all coming home to the Queen of the Castle. Though Penny could have easily earned this award herself, my Character of the Episode award is going to someone who I already made clear at this point, Nora, for the stellar material that supported why I and many others love her for more than just her hijinks and hammer time. This also ties in with her great Scene of the Episode award performance, giving us a moment of her opening up for the sincere emotions, enticing drama, and heartfelt performance underneath, which also ties things up nicely with the voice acting gold star going to Samantha Ireland for some of the finest work yet, exploring Nora's fragility with the same level of honesty and charm as the character's brighter sides. So, that's a trio of episodes done, and so far, things are looking grand for the volume's quality. We got plenty of reasons to smile, reasons to worry, and ultimately a ton of reasons to care about the highs and lows of the cast. And even before things get really intense, this has been some very engrossing stuff to watch. We got a good rhythm now of exploring how the heroes, and even some of the villains, are preparing for the real meat of the volume to come. So I'm happy to say that even with a lot of what could have left this episode in a whole mess of knots, this episode made sure that the positives hang on by more than just a few threads. But it's time for you to tell me what you thought about this episode. How do you feel about Nora's mental and physical breakdowns? Do you think Penny will make it out of what comes next okay? And do you feel bad for Bill? let me know in the comments down below, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe and bell buttons and tick the notification box to make sure you get every new video from me as they drop. And follow me on Twitter at ThatKaitoDan for more on anything to do with future reactions, updates on the channel, and more. But until next time, have a good day or good night, and peace out.